and I want to talk about a little bit of what's going on here with the lockdown and COVID-19. I just want to do a check-in with you guys and actually make sure that how things are going, because what I wouldn't want to do is freak out in a situation like this, because there's a little bit of uncertainty and things going on. But when it relates to our career and the things that we should be kind of advancing on, visual storytelling and what to do, I just want to make sure that people are doing the right things to stay productive and get out there and not freak out about the situation. Because we talked about this a little bit in some previous story chats. Is kind of like the uncertainty. There's a lot of unemployment going around. There might be some projects that were slated to go that have been postponed. So these are all things that we just want to be aware of, and then I want to see how you guys are dealing with that stuff. So let me know. And as always, we're going to be taking your questions about anything under the sun, visual storytelling wise. And I also want to update you on some of the things that I'm working on too. So big shout out to everybody, and let me say hi to those guys who are signing on right now. Hey, awesome, cool. What's up, fellas? Good to see you. All right, Jose, good to see you, buddy. Kyla, hey there. So I want to know what you guys are up to, because depending on where you live, kind of the lockdown is more intense than other places, right? So if maybe you're stuck in the suburbs and it's not as crazy, and if maybe you're like in the city or New York or something where you really have to be careful about what's happening right now. And I think the worst thing in any kind of situation, the worst thing you can probably do is just 100% take in the media, and even kind of the mainstream media and social media, and you just get bombarded with all of these messages of people being like, oh, things are going crazy, the world is coming to an end. And I don't see it that way. If you got to look at these things in perspective, really. My take on this whole situation, when it comes to jobs, career-wise, and that stuff, is yes, there might be a slowdown. Yes, there's going to be some unexpected results of all of this. But what you want to do is make sure that you're prepared to handle this stuff. So let me give you an example. So I've been through a number of these kind of rocky roads where it comes to like recession and depression. Let me tell you a story. So I graduated in 1999 at an art school back in San Francisco, and when I came out of art school, that was like a real downturn. there was no there's not as many job prospects as I was hoping, because just a few years prior, like back in 2000, let's see, yeah, later in the 2000s started picking up again, but let's see, back in like 95, 96, 97, that was like a real hot time for animation, and like Pixar was killing it, and Disney was hiring, and DreamWorks had just started up. So it was like there was a frenzy for like artists, and it was like people were getting plucked right out of school, and the guys who were like really skilled were getting like signing bonuses and stuff. And we're like, yeah, our group of friends were like, yes, we're gonna have a career, we're gonna be able to make some money, we're gonna do what we want to do. And I always wanted to work on films, so I got all excited. But then after like probably about midway through my college years, things started to slow down. You saw this where like there was like big layoffs at these companies that I wanted to work for, like Disney. And so then it kind of got scary, and all these like internships that were promised got canceled. And then I was super bummed out. I didn't know what to do, and I figured, okay, well, I'm just gonna have to work at whatever I can get. And fortunately I landed a couple of jobs doing animation, but I also did like graphic design. I did like a children's book. I did like all kinds of random things just to keep working. And the cool thing was, I learned a bunch of things during that time because it was kind of slow. Artist friends were like working at bookstores and stuff. They weren't doing art, from what I from what I remember, and it was like real slow. Like San Francisco was a ghost town. That was like when the dot-com bust, and things were just like real in the doldrums over there. And but the thing is, San Francisco had been through that before. The whole country had been through that kind of stuff before. And to our industry, there's like ebbs and flows, right? And then right now, what I think is happening is we're going to get another downturn. And so what you got to do, that doesn't mean it's going to be bad for you. In fact, there are people who really take advantage of this time and they lock down. I know a lot of people that have been consistently working, at studio jobs throughout their whole career in ups and downs. And that's probably because they've made themselves a key player in these productions. And these skills that we have as visual storytellers, I always say, and it's still the case, are high in demand. So if you can have a really strong portfolio and get people to take a look at your work and check out what you're doing, then you have some you have some ammo on your side that you can be able to stay afloat, keep your jobs going, get clients, and start doing things, because it is hard, like, to do what we do. It is problem solving, it is visual problem solving, and not many people can do it and do it well. Okay, and so what we have to do is hone our skills and get that tight, so that when the time comes and there's a need that arises, then we can start clinching on that. So video games didn't go away when the slowdown came. Movies did not go away when previous recessions happened, and media stuff was there. Now, just recently, you guys remember there was like a virtual reality boom, right? Just like 2-3 years ago, Oculus came out strong, and there was some competition, and then GDC, which is the Game Developers Conference, was like all buzz with virtual reality, and there was like a mini boom in that there, and then people were getting jobs and money was getting tossed around, like literally millions of dollars. Companies were coming out overnight with millions of dollars of venture capital funding to do VR projects, and then all of a sudden, it kind of like the air went out of that wave, and things just started to slow down really quickly. So even between those times where you have like these ups and downs, in the global economy, you have like these mini bubbles that are happening within our industry, right? And you might catch a wave here and there, but I think the idea is just to stay consistent and stay employed and stay connected with the greater community out there, so that you're never out of work. You're never like disconnected from your people, from the industry, from the career that you want to be working in, right? So cool. Hey, let me give another shout out to people here. I love it. Jose, stuck at home working on boards. Good man. That's what I like to hear. At least you're working, my friend. That's excellent. All right, cool. Ashuya, what's the Ayus man? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Your videos are helpful. I'm glad to hear it. And I want to hear a little bit about what you guys are doing in storyboard art. And I'll ask that a little bit later. Oh my gosh, we got Toro out there. Hey, buddy. Good to see you. And let me take some questions. So on Facebook here, Umpha Koroma is asking, how would one go about becoming an animatic editor? That's a really good question, because one, let me tell people a little bit about animatic. So an animatic, or a story reel, is basically just a bunch of storyboards that are compiled together in an editorial reel, and out of that you get a rough idea of what your sequence and what your series or show or project will look like. So it's kind of a rough draft of an edited version of everything in sequence. And you usually have your storyboards there. You'll put temp audio and temp dialogue. You might even put temp music in there. And you want to see the flow. It's a way to get your pacing and your timing right. And editors, there's a demand for quality editors that can do that with live action film, with storyboards, and with other media, right? So how do you actually go and become an animatic editor? There's no specific job title for animatic editor. What you want to do is focus on editing work. So if you're an editor, if you know how to use like the editing software like Adobe Premiere, Final Cut, Avid, that's what you want to be specializing in. And then guess what? You have to be a visual storyteller. So an editor, if you know the tools, does not make you an editor. An editor has to make story decisions, sequence and shot decisions, to see what comes next and how to tighten these things up. Yes, there's a technical piece involved, but the best editors are the ones that can look at a project and understand how to manipulate the shots to make your sequence and your scene work. And so how you actually become an editor, an animatic editor, if you're working in animation, you have to just become a good editor. So and that means any type of footage. It could be live action footage, it could be 3D animation, it could be video game footage, but that you know how to cut a sequence together in narrative film, right? Narrative storytelling. So it works with the timeline from beginning to end, and you know how to cut something together with sound and dialogue and all that stuff to make a complete piece. Now, an editor nowadays should also have more skills. That includes After Effects, includes kind of post-production skills to be able to do some manipulation of the images. And but really, you are a storyteller. You are an integral piece of solving the storytelling puzzle, and you work tightly with the story team and the directors to create your animatic, to create your story reel, right? So my advice there is what you want to do is you have a reel. This is your portfolio reel, demo reel that you show to people, and it should have examples of things you have cut together and edited together, right? So I have a reel like that, and I haven't been an editor, but I show my pieces of animation and storytelling and visual work that I've done together, and I've edited that in there. I know how to edit. In fact, many people know how to edit, and I can defend myself when it comes to putting a sequence together. In fact, I'm actually editing. I was previously, just when I jumped on this talk right now, I was editing a project that I'm working on, which is actually really fun. So but I wouldn't consider myself an editor. I wouldn't go out and apply for editorial work. But okay, let me give you another tip now that we're on this subject. If the world like came to that, like all the jobs for storytelling went dry, right? And I couldn't find anything and I had to support my family. What am I going to do? I'm going to pull my skills out, whatever I have, whether it's character design, whether it's like location design, whatever I can do to get a job. And one of those things might be editing work. I know how to edit. I know how to do After Effects. I know how to do these things just because in the course of working over many years, I've built up these skills. Now, am I as good as Walter Murch? Maybe not. But I can defend myself when it comes to doing this stuff. And if you don't know who Walter Murch is, look him up. You guys should all know who that is. All right. Hey, Chad, what's up, baby? How are you? Okay, so Chad, this is another good buddy who was in part of our mentorship. I should mention that in storyboard art. This was a program that we started last year, and we're looking to do another session this year in 2020. We're still working out the timing and scheduling of that, but we led a group of really talented artists over a course of doing multiple story exercises that was focused on getting your portfolio tight. So thanks, Chad, for participating in that. So it's good to see you on these talks. Let me answer your question here. So Chad asked, a lot of TV asked for the style of the show. I took the latest fan art challenge to try and match show styles lately. It's really helped out in keeping busy and learning something new. All right, man. Thanks for that comment. That's also one thing that you need to be doing as an artist is just to be flexible and be able to adapt to whatever style is required of you. And that's harder. That's easier said than done. It's a really hard thing to do because you have to have enough drawing skills and flexibility and versatility as an artist to be able to do something cartoony and then all of a sudden go to something realistic and then somewhere in between. And sometimes you might have to do anime style versus like Disney animation style and then go all the way. So if you have skills and you're able to have that versatility, the only way to do that is to practice and work on it. And if you have that, it's going to just make you a more bankable person. You have something that again, it's kind of job security, that you're physically able to apply to many opportunities out there because you have the skills to defend yourself, right? Cool. Great question. So let me just throw this out for you guys. So what are you doing during this COVID-19 kind of lockdown? If you guys are just at home, is there any projects that you're working on? Are you just bored? Are you like freaked out watching the news? Like, let me know what's going on, and I'll give you my take on some of that stuff. But so let me see if I pronounce this right. Brithamat, you're saying that you're experimenting with story and color being emotion. You're experimenting with story and color, that being emotion, and that's super fun. All right, great. Yeah, color, you can use that to represent emotion, and it doesn't matter what color if you think about it. Now, traditionally, if I say red, people are going to say, "Oh yeah, that's danger. That's something like action." If I say yellow, that might be like caution. Whatever like social norms that you apply to those colors. But in a story, if you set up a color and a color palette based on the emotions that you have in the film, you can make any color be any emotion, and that's actually really interesting. So when it comes to storyboard work, I don't usually do color stuff, but when I'm coming down to actually directing something or finalizing a project, I will be thinking of the color palette that I want. Most of the time I'm just thinking of warm versus cool, but you can do something where like like in the Matrix, for example, every time they went to the Matrix, it had like a green tone to it, and every time you saw green, you associated that with the Matrix environment. So that's a cool kind of visual design tip there for that. So yeah, cool. All right, so Peculiar Artisan says, revisiting my illustration roots to build pencil mileage. That's the way to do it, my friend. That's the way to do it. Pencil mileage. What that means is you just have to burn through as many drawings as possible. Keep your arm, your hand, eye coordination really hot, moving all the time, drawing every waking moment. Every single time you have the opportunity to draw, you should do it. So if you're watching TV, you got a sketchbook in hand and you're doing some sketches, right? If you're, at the dinner table and you're having, a meal with some people, you have your sketchbook there and you're doodling as you're doing that. Then you have concentrated time that hopefully you can have. Maybe, can you do 20 minutes? Can you do half an hour where nobody's going to bug you, that you're just sitting there and do it? Sometimes lately I've been kind of really busy, and like at the very end of my day, like right in bed, I have a sketchbook right next to my bed and I'll start doodling something just because I feel like I need to get something out there and sketch. And it doesn't matter what you come up with. And actually, sometimes you might be surprised of what you come up with at that time. But the idea is you build that pencil mileage. You're always drawing. There's nothing, it never hurts to do that stuff. There's nothing there's nothing bad that you can do. And nothing bad is going to come out of doing that kind of exercise. Only good will come out of that. So keep that going. Keep that up. All right, Elk Creates. Let me read your question here. Actually, when working on portfolio, is fan art storyboards okay? That one's that's a good question, and that comes up a lot. And actually, I would not do fan art stuff for your portfolio, and let me tell you a couple of reasons why. Um, One, studios like to see the work that you've been doing either professionally. So if you worked on a show like Batman or something and you have Batman boards, okay, that's cool. But if you're doing fan art Batman sequences and you're trying to mimic the style of like the Bruce Timm shows or something like that, that's not looked upon as well as if you had worked on the show. Because one of the reasons is they want to see your opinion. I would like to see your opinion of what you're doing individually and what kind of ideas you have. I don't necessarily want you to copy like Super Friends or anime stuff. I want to see your storytelling, your unique perspective and your point of view in your portfolio. So if you're copying Pixar movies or Disney movies and you're just putting in like a Tangled sequence, you're going to confuse people and make them think that you actually worked on those shows. The other one is if it's fan art, it's usually it might deviate from what the original show would be, and it doesn't show off your original thinking of it, right? So my recommendation here is actually, if you like to do that stuff, great, but don't put it in your portfolio. Do something original and create something unique to you. So, this is another great exercise, is you just do something that you want to do and you put it in there. That's going to show off your storytelling. It's going to show off your originality and, your idea, your creativity, your ability to create ideas, right? Cool. So let me go to Facebook. Man, a bunch of questions coming up. All right, this is great. All right, hi, I'm working on this animatic right now for school. This is Emma Williams, by the way. Thanks for asking this question. And it has to be 15 seconds long, and I'm having a super hard time with it approaching the deadline. Any advice on how not to lose your mind on a deadline? Well, let me give you a couple of tips. So deadlines are your friend, okay? They really are. And I know it can be stressful, especially when you're behind. But there's nothing that makes you focus in the world better than having a deadline. Now, if you screwed off for months and months and months and you only have 2 weeks left to your deadline, that's on you. And that's probably something like a learning experience where you just have to learn to be disciplined and get things done when you need to get them done. So one thing that I recommend is, as much as possible, remove all distractions and focus. This is your opportunity now. If your deadline is coming up, that you really sit down and focus on what you're doing, no matter what. And this is where it really turns you into a disciplined artist, because you might have to work late nights, you might have to get up early, but that desire to meet that deadline and actually do the best possible work should be what drives you to complete that. So I don't recommend, if you can avoid it, doing all-nighters and just like burning the midnight oil and going all out. Only do that in extreme emergency cases. Okay, now I've had my share of this, and they're terrible. I don't like to do that stuff very often because it just burns you out. So one thing you have to do is really get yourself in the zone as fast as possible, and in moderation. If things like coffee helps you, or like a tea, that you just you have something there like that. You get in the zone, and you might be sipping on coffee, and then you're listening to maybe some music in the background. Nothing distracting, of course, but then you just get in the zone and you do it, and you work and you work and you work as much as possible in blocks of time. Then give yourself breaks. Okay, so you might work in 1 hour, 2 hour block. Take a 15-minute break. Get up, walk around. Most people are in their house right now. Go, have a bite to eat, take a snack, but then come right back down to your work table, your work desk, your computer, whatever it is you're working on, and keep going. Okay, and then do that until you feel like you've made some progress. And then you also need to take a break in the evening and kind of wind down. So if you really have a heavy deadline, you might be working 8, 10, 12 hours a day, right? And I've done much more than that over my share in my career. And like I said, I don't like to kill myself when it comes to doing these deadlines. So the best thing that you can do to avoid this stuff is be consistent. You wake up, you're disciplined, you sit down at your drawing table, your workstation, and you work consistently, like a 2 to 4 hour block. You take a break, you do another couple hours, and then you're done for the day. Keep that going, that pace consistent, and turn your phone off, turn your email off, and don't get distracted by a bunch of things, right? So hopefully that helps a bit. All right, great questions, man. Okay, let me I'll put this in there too, and I'll put this on screen to for people to know, is for Facebook, is the visual story course. How many of you guys have actually taken the visual story course and storyboard art? This is something that we had for a limited time up, and we started this early in the year 2020, and we've kept it up now, especially because people might have more time now with lockdown and COVID-19, so they can check out some of the resources that we have there. I'm just curious of how many people have gone through these exercises and done this. What we're trying to do is just give people a taste of visual storytelling and give people ideas of what they want to work on, what they can work on for sequences and stuff that's related to your portfolio. So these are not throwaway exercises. If you actually focus on this, you could do the storytelling images that we're talking about and do as many as possible. That should be like an ongoing exercise. So let me describe that a little bit more. Is you take single panel storytelling images. You could have one relate to the other, or just the image itself can be a standalone thing that tells a story. That's really powerful. It's a really good thing to have in your portfolio, and it's excellent practice because you produce an image and you see if it can actually tell a story. And if it doesn't, you throw it out, you do something else, right? And sometimes you'll come up with some wacky ideas, and sometimes you'll have some winners. So that's the idea, that you kind of keep that going, and you have some stuff to put in your portfolio and update things. So if you've done that, let us know, and let us know how it goes. Have any of you guys taken the boot camp? So related to the visual story course, there's a visual story boot camp that is another series of resources that we have, and that's a paid course. So most people, if you're serious about that, then you want to go there. The visual story course is free, so you want to do that. Jump on that, and you can collaborate with everybody else online, especially now where we're so interconnected and with this lockdown thing. So check that out. If anybody's done that, let us know. Cool. So let me answer some more of these questions while we have some time here. Let me see here. Britomat, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Do you think there will be a demand for artists in a couple of years compared to now? Also, I've just been listening to music and drawing, waiting for this thing to get better. All right, great. I like the fact that you're drawing. The music, that's secondary. Keep on drawing. If you're a visual artist, you should be drawing and drawing and drawing. And then also post your stuff. Show us, show the world, right? One thing you can do now is start building up your following. You can start working on your own personal brand, your own website, doing things that you haven't had time to do, and work on that. So do I think there will be a demand for artists in a couple of years compared to now? Now, I have no idea what's going to happen, but let me tell you, based on some of the other like recessions and slowdowns that I've seen, I think we're heading for a recession. I think that's probably pretty obvious based on the amount of people that are unemployed, the fallout that's going to happen from COVID-19. It's going to be a slow recovery. I mean, there's nothing to me. There's no other sign that's pointing to that, because as restaurants start to open up again, as things start to lighten up, it's going to take a while for people to get back to normal. Okay, that's going to affect us as artists, right? Now, the advantage that we have is that if you have a setup and you can work remotely, which I highly recommend everyone out there should be doing this, is just get a simple setup as much as possible, even like drawing on paper and taking pictures from your phone to be able to beam that to clients or social media or wherever you need to. That's going to work for now, but get that up and running as fast as possible. So that's the advantage that we have, is that we can be mobile like that, and we can be working remotely. So do I think there's going to be a demand? A couple of things that looking at the past. So video games have not gone away. There was a time where people thought that it was just going to be a passing fad, and it blew up, and it's blowing up even more. That is not going away. Look at Twitch. Look at what's happening with YouTube streaming and all of these things in the video game world. In fact, there's a boost from that because of what's happening with COVID-19. People are at home and they're gaming. So gaming is visual storytelling, and that's something that we can do as graphic artists. And so I think that kind of demand will actually increase there. I think we have a good opportunity. I'm positive on that one. I'm positive in the sense of I'm optimistic, I should say. I'm optimistic on video games and those projects because there's no crystal ball here. I can't predict what's going to happen. Now, film and television, I also think we're going to have a lot of projects coming up. What we're probably going to see like a little bit of a dip and a little bit of slowdown, and then all of a sudden things are going to start to pick up again, right? Think of all the series that might have had to take a break because of what's happening. They might not be able to film right now, but then all of that's going to pick up again, and then you want to be ready. You want to have your portfolio ready. You want to have things to show and people to connect with, so that you can jump into any project that happens and either do it remotely or maybe in person if you're lucky enough to be in an area where those things are going to start to pick up again. Okay, the main thing is to be prepared. So I don't know if there's going to be a demand. I don't see that it's going away. Now also think of everything that happens on your apps, your mobile apps, on social media and streaming. Those all have graphics involved. They all have motion video. They all have narrative storytelling involved with it. So to me, there's no reason why we should think that any of this stuff is going away. What I do think is that you have to be connected with those people who are creating those projects, and you have to have your eyes really open to new opportunities that are going to come up. So you should be checking the updates from news, and some websites you can go to are like Animation World Network. It has some great updates on animation based stuff. You can go to the guilds like the Visual Effects Society, the Directors Guild, the Art Directors Guild, and just check out to see if they have updates. ASIFA, the Animation Society in LA, they have local chapters, so check with those guys to see if any projects or TV shows come up. Check IMDb, right, Internet Movie Database, to see what things are cooking. Keep on that pace, because that's how you're gonna stay employed, right? So my prediction really for demand is I think it's probably going to take a dip and it's going to come back up, and then it's going to stay constant for a while. But it's going to be up to you to do your individual hustle to make sure you're covered. Okay, and that goes for everybody out there. There is no shortcut. You have to do the work and put in the hours and connect with people. There's so many tools nowadays. So think of LinkedIn, think of your social media, get your website up and stay connected with people. Cool. All right. Let me take some of these questions from Facebook here. All right, Frank is saying he's working on a TV animated web series up for YouTube. Great, buddy. Share some stuff with us. And also a feature animated film called Hearts of Valor about rescue dogs during World War I. That's awesome. That sounds really cool. Please share some of those if you can. If anything is not under NDA, or you can show that stuff publicly, please share it with us, share it with Storyboard Art. That'd be great. Sai Sarath here is asking, how do you ask professionals for portfolio critiques or reviews, and how do you ask them if they can recommend me for a job if they like my portfolio? That's a big ask. One, if you ask for, okay, let me take the first half of that question. How do you ask professionals for portfolio reviews and critiques? So one way is you have to build up your network and connect with these people. We have a guideline on Storyboard Art. You can see some of the networking courses that we have there. but really it's a guide for you guys to understand how to connect with people and do it the right way, so that you don't become a crazy stalker, and also you build a relationship with these people that you want to get feedback from, and then you start to do that. So really, the answer to your question is, you have to connect with these guys. Two, you have to build a relationship with them and make sure that they kind of trust that whatever you're going to ask to them, that you're going to respect their time and their relationship, right? Then if things are established correctly, what you might do is do a very specific ask. So this is one of the tips I give. If you're asking somebody for a portfolio review, make it short and limited to just a couple of things. Because if you don't know this person and you're asking a pro out there that you met online or social media or whatever, to ask them to review a big giant portfolio or your full website is a really big ask, okay? Other thing that you can do is just go to LinkedIn or go to our Visual Story United Facebook page and post some stuff there. See if some people will give you some feedback and connect with guys that way. That's a way to start it up, and then you can start building relationships with those people there. So getting back to what my comment is, that so limit the things that you were going to ask them for critique on to maybe like 1 or 2 pages of your portfolio, or maybe just a couple of like one storyboard sequence that has multiple images in it, but it's a really short sequence that they can give you some feedback on in a really short amount of time. So the ask for them to some kind of pro would be, do you have 5 minutes to give me some quick comments on this specific sequence that I'm going to show you? And hopefully the answer is yes, that somebody could spare, if they're generous enough to spare a couple of minutes and give you some quick comments on that. Then from that, you reply and you build up more and more till eventually you're going to have somebody give you a full portfolio review. The second part to your question, how to ask them if they can recommend me for a job if they like my portfolio. I wouldn't ask that, actually. So imagine this. You have a professional out there that you connected with online, and let's say you're not exactly that tight. You just met this person and you're going to give them an ask for a portfolio review. Let's say they do it, all right? Let's say they really like your portfolio, and the next thing you ask them is like, hey, can you give me a job? Can you give me a recommendation? That is like a little bit too forced. What I would recommend is that if they really like your work, they're going to remember you. And if they have some kind of opportunity or job thing, they might or might not be able to recommend you for something. So what I would do is just wait till your relationship is a little tighter and you're like better established with them. And then you can ask, it's like, do you know of any jobs that are available? And do you think my portfolio would fit for those kinds of jobs? You could do something kind of open-ended like that. But to just like randomly ask somebody if they can recommend you for a job, I don't think it's the best way to do that. That's not something I would do if I didn't know the people. Like, for example, if I knew a job was opening up at Disney, for example, I didn't know anybody at Disney, and all of a sudden I start researching people and I connect with a couple artists at Disney, and they say, hey, I'm a really big fan of yours, and here's my work. Can you take a look? And by the way, can you recommend me for this job that just opened up at your company? So the person has no reason to really recommend you there. So what I would probably do is see if I can somehow establish a relationship. If I know anybody in the company, I would probably email them or call them up and say, have you heard of this position? So you're like, the best way to do this if you have a personal contact. If you don't have any personal contacts, that's the sign that you need to be working on those things and build up your network. So those personal contacts, you have those cluttered around all the studios, right? Okay. Cool. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Josue is saying that I've been trying to board even though I don't know anymore. Keep it up, man. Whatever you're gonna do, just it's gonna pay off in the end. All right, keep going. Bar California, drawing from other character designers. Lots of film study sketches too. Great, man. That's awesome. Keep that up. Keep that up. I love it. Yeah, you got to keep busy, right? Just stay inspired, and that's what you got to do in these times where you don't necessarily know what's going to come in the future. Go back to the love of film. Go back to the love of drawing and creating artwork. That's what you want to be doing. Cool. All right, let me take a couple more questions, and then we'll bounce out for the day because my battery's about to die anyway. Okay. Let me take this question from CRVZP. I really have a hard time drawing in my Wacom versus real paper, but I know it's brutal important in order to make it in any jobs. Any tips or thoughts in digital illustration? Yeah, you have to power through it. I had that learning curve at first too. Yes, I think traditional media is always going to be best. Just that feel of pencil and paper and ink and just getting your hands dirty is great, but you just have to power through it and get your tools up to date. If you're working with a really old like Wacom tablet or pen, the new ones are super sensitive. And if you try to add iPad Pro, you're gonna that feel in like something like Procreate or even Photoshop on the iPad. It's just so smooth and nice, and it's really very close. So there's no excuse anymore. You just got to power through it and keep on it, because you need to understand the digital tools and need to be able to draw that way. I've had people turn things in drawing with their finger on their phone. So there's no excuse. There really isn't. And yes, if you're old school and you want to stick to those traditional ways, that's fine. Take a picture of it, scan it in, do some manipulation, but keep it going when it comes to digital tools. Cool. And just to answer this question for Bryce Thomat here, how do we share things with you again? Well, just direct message us on Instagram or Facebook, and you can email us directly at story@storyboardart.org, and you can hit us up there. We'll share it. The best way to do it is on social media, because then we can like repost stuff and we can share each other and get that stuff going. All right, friends, I think this is probably a good place to end this today, because my battery's about to die, and we can pick this stuff up later. So if you guys have more questions, go ahead, DM me, and we'll see what we can do to put those in the queue and answer the questions there. In the meantime, keep on working hard, keep on working on your skills, because whatever's happening in the world around you, you're still an artist, right? You still want to be creating artwork. You got to be telling your stories. There's no reason why you should slow down because something else is happening that is outside of your control. Do what you can do that's in your control, and make sure that you're progressing and creating awesome artwork, because when the opportunity presents itself, you have to be ready. You have to be ready. That's it. It's just what you have to do. So get to it. Get busy. All right, friends. Stay safe. We'll talk soon. See ya.